What's up again, my friends? Carpo here. Beautiful sunny day here in Portland. And I just wanted to come out and make a video here to cover a couple different subjects. Somehow figure out how to segue into one another. Two subject matters, really. The original subject I wanted to talk about was knowing yourself. And how do you get to know yourself and really observe yourself? And this is something I've been working on for a few years now. And that's really looking at my motivations behind the reasons why I do things. That's everything from addictions to behaviors to the way I respond to people to asking myself the reasons why I even make YouTube videos. Like, to sit and ask yourself why you do the things you do. Not tell yourself that you know why you do the things you do, but what you might call the observer, or the secondary observer. You're standing outside of yourself, watching yourself. So as if I'm doing this even when I'm making videos sometimes, or when I'm speaking with someone, but especially when I'm reacting to someone. If someone says something that angers me, I really get in deep and ask myself why I'm frustrated. And I've noticed in the last few days, I should say the last couple weeks, I've had rather short fuse, some days. Now, in my day-to-day activities, I don't feel any more frustrated. But since I know myself and I really analyze myself, I'm aware of when I'm short and when I'll snap back at somebody. Like, some couple subscribers that I argued with about something, and I was just like, I wasn't having it. It was like somebody who gave me shit about making a video about drugs when I'd made a Kratom video, and I was like, this was right after the ban was started to take place, and I'm like, get off my back, that kind of shit. But I wasn't angry at them, but I was snappy in my responses, and I can be that way to people when I'm speaking to them face to face or in a comment section or whatnot, but generally I try to be as respectful as possible and give people in my life the type of attitude of, well, you're welcome to your opinion, keep it to yourself, I don't care. Or, you're welcome to your opinion and I respect it, but I don't agree with it. Or, you're welcome to your opinion and I do agree with it, but I'm too stubborn to admit it. Because we as humans, sometimes we don't want to admit our faults, and sometimes the faults are irrelevant. Such as when the person picks at a weak point on someone else and tries to poke at their armor, and the person would say, hey, look, I know that I'm weak in this point, but, don't pour salt in the wound, and that's what a lot of people like to do. They find and attach to any weakness of a person, and it's like, they're like bacteria finding their way into a tear in the skin. Think of yourself as having a skin of personality, a skin of ego, and when that skin is cut, bacteria can enter that skin, and the idea is to have a good immune system, and a good immune system means knowing who you are, and the most crucial part to that is being able to admit your faults, and knowing when somebody says something that's true, you can say, yeah, I suppose I'm a bit stubborn, or yeah, I can be arrogant at times, or yes, perhaps I have a problem doing this, or so-and-so has an anger problem, so-and-so has a victim problem. Every one of us has something. I have, there's two types of people that I can think off the top of my head that really bother me. And those are the victims and the arrogant people. And extremely arrogant people. And to give you an example, this is why I dislike Donald Trump so much. It's not his policies. The whole thing about Trump being, not a politician, I totally love that aspect of it. The idea of Trump saying, screw you to the system, I totally love that aspect of it. The way that he even talks shit to people and he doesn't put up with it, I like that aspect. But the arrogance, I cannot deal with. Because I know that arrogant people lead their people down the wrong paths. Arrogant leaders have always done this. And this is something we see in school teachers, gym teachers, coaches, bosses, everybody in life, that the people who seem to be the most arrogant and just can't let down their guard and say, yeah, I'm a faulty human. I mean, can you imagine someone like Trump just saying, yeah, I've got some faults there? No, of course not. It's narcissism to the extreme. So that's the one extreme of arrogance. But the other the other opposite end is victimization. And oh God, some people play the victim role so heavy on YouTube or elsewhere, vlogs, blogs, you name it. You know, they'll go online and post something like, you know, it's really, if a person just says a comment like, woe is me, my life's so hard, I have to go to work 8 hours a day, yada yada, a person would easily tear into that person and say, up yours, buddy, we all work, we all try, you know, what makes you so special? But let's take another angle and say a person posts, well, I have a problem with addiction and it's hard to quit. And a person could say, yeah, well, we all do, it's tough. Now, add something to the end of that sentence. I have an addiction problem and it's hard to quit. I'm thinking about committing suicide. Now, instantly, the whole ballpark changes there. Nobody's going to start saying, oh, yeah, well, you might as well. Now, there are plenty of trolls that will say, just do the job. But what I'm saying is the average person with any type of respect would say, hey, whoa, wait a minute, step back from this. And a person who sees that they're approached more carefully and treated gently if they threaten harm to themselves. These tend to be the people who obsess in victim roles, that do harm themselves for attention, not just physically and not just suicide, but people who sabotage themselves and get themselves into bad situations. If you had a friend who had never drank alcohol in his life, and all of a sudden he had a drink one time and he got pulled over, blew an exact .08, and went to prison for 3 years over some DUI thing where he'd never even been in trouble in his life, you would feel sorry for him probably. You'd think that was just a stupid mistake, one thing happened. But if you have a friend that's had 4 DUIs and they blow a .2 and then they want your sympathy because they crashed into somebody and then they're going to jail for it, well, tough shit, buddy, you know. I guess an example would be I have a good friend who got pulled over a few years back. He was in the paper. He was going 135 miles an hour on the freeway, passing a bunch of cars on I-5. And he actually groveled to me about it and said, hey, you know, this is bullshit. I was actually just passing some cars. And I'm like, look, stop. Don't play the victim here. I don't care how fast you were going. I realize you're riding a crotch rocket. I understand that it's on the freeway. I know that you're going fast. But just say, I made a mistake. I got pulled over. I got caught for it, you know. You can't just like, oh, poor me, I was going 135 passing someone, but that just popped into my head. But the victim roles that people play and the arrogance games that people play are very difficult to overcome as obstacles to conversation. Now, I can come across and appear arrogant to people probably if they don't know me very well. But if they get to know me, they realize that really, no, I can joke about myself and my personality. I have kind of I guess the only description I can have is like a Zen-like look to life, where everything's kind of funny, and it's just like, it's a joke, you know. I don't take life too seriously, but I don't take it as a joke. I take it seriously in the sense that I'm amazed that I'm living and I exist here. I mean, don't know what else to say about it, but I guess which kind of brings me to the other aspect I wanted to talk about, which was reality. Somebody sent me a link to a video to watch, and I didn't really get the chance to watch it. But it was a guy talking about reality. And I didn't watch the show, but the comment and response that he said he wanted me to watch it because he was just curious to know what I thought about this idea of, from what I gathered, you know, kind of a theory on reality, if you will, or whatever it may be. The point being that my first instant thought was rejection, not of the subject, but of the idea that reality should even be explored. And it's not because I haven't tried to explore it. It's because I've spent the last 20 years of my life trying to understand and explore reality, in the sense that I've come to the conclusion that some things just cannot be known. And reality and what it is and how it functions is one of those things. It's kind of like trying to describe consciousness. It's a conundrum. It's a paradox of consciousness. A conscious being trying to analyze consciousness cannot properly do it because he cannot be distanced from the consciousness he's trying to study. And when it comes to reality, it's the same thing. We are within this framework of what we think is reality, so therefore trying to define it is impossible. And I firmly believe that there is some sort of what you might call reality, because all reality means is something that is real, and that means the real state of things. So underlying this whole crazy mechanism of life is obviously some sort of a reality. Even if nothing exists, then that is the reality. You see, that's what's real. Something has to be real in order to even analyze if anything's real. So, see, this is exactly it. I spent 2 minutes here trying to explain, like, this whole idea. You can't explain reality. You just cannot understand it or comprehend it. But beyond that, you know, a lot of folks talk about the idea that we're living in a matrix, that everything's an illusion. I've gone down all these different roads, mystical beliefs that, you know, nothing is really tangible, and none of it has garnered any support from me, only because it hasn't been proven useful in daily life. And that's the conclusion I've come to, and what I'm trying to share here is that knowing yourself is important in daily life. It's something that can help you survive. It can help you when I said I was getting frustrated earlier. I found myself kind of snapping at the school principal when I picked up my son. You know, she said something about, "Oh, you're supposed to pick up the kids over here," and I gave her some quick snapback. I gave her some shit about the whole system that they have there. I was like, "Well, you guys should set this up better with the parents." And I didn't act rude, but I felt inside like jumping down her throat. And I thought, whoa, you know, this is obviously because you're a little frustrated because the kratom ban is going into place. You feel like you can't, you know, you're going to have to start over your business, and as well, kratom's going to be illegal to consume. It's just this huge issue. It's a small thing. By analyzing it in the big picture, I'm able to let it go. But the big picture can wear on you. And that's when I come back to the reality thing, that reality is only as good as what you can do with it. And, you know, I've seen a lot of these theories of everything. There's a lot of shows that have come out trying to explain things that people have sent me links to that I may or may not have watched years ago. But there was one everybody knows of, which is Zeitgeist. And if you haven't seen Zeitgeist, come on, give me a break. You have to see it. But the first time you watch it, especially back then when it came out, it was, you know, you start thinking, whoa, you know, why are we tying in religion with politics, with money, with occult, and people are able to see this bigger picture that there's some crazy stuff going on in this world. But the question is, out of all of that, what is the useful knowledge? And those are the things, from all these things I've learned, books I've read, shows I've watched, what is the useful knowledge? And that's the knowledge that tells you who you are, shows you how to handle yourself, shows you how to deal with other people, not let them be vampires and suck off of you. Understanding succubus and energy vampires, but putting the science behind it is a really important factor. And somebody tried to combine these two with spirit science. And anybody who's seen spirit science knows that, boy, it sure can suck you in at first. But once they start getting into the facts and figures about things like Lemuria and Atlantis and how humans were from Mars originally, and you know, all of this stuff, it's kind of like jaw-dropping, like, okay, this is either all complete bullshit, or there's some stuff I just haven't learned yet that I need to learn. And when I first watched that, I thought, okay, so where are these books about Lemuria and Atlantis? And wow, is any of this true? Does any of it resonate? It's not like I just believed it. It's just like, okay, I'm curious. And come to find out, of course, that it's just more junk to pull people in. I mean, I respect the guy who does spirit science, okay? I think that he's got some great ideas, and I appreciate what he's put out there. But the problem is the conclusions that we lean towards, the believing things and making things up that we can't be sure about. And if you put even 1 ounce of speculation in a paragraph of truth, the whole paragraph becomes speculation. It's like one bad apple in a bunch, tainting it, you know. That's why when I have a conversation with somebody, I make it known that it's really important for me that they have some sort of a reference for what we're talking about. Instead of just speculating on, oh, this may be possible, or this may be possible. But that really knows the shit, knows their shit to an extent that they can actually talk about it without saying, I heard this, or I saw this, or this may be true, or this is possible. And I'm not saying that speculation isn't useful either. If you're the kind of person who loves to talk about things like, what if there's aliens out there, or, you know, perhaps there's trees think. I mean, these are things that I've already considered a long time ago. I mean, but a lot of people are just getting into these ideas. They've lived a straight and narrow life of work, home, and then all of a sudden they break out of their shell, and then they want to share all these things. Well, people need to get together with people who are at the same place they are. And I'm not talking about like anybody superior, because a person who's gained a lot of occult knowledge about the hidden meanings of things and mystical symbols and ancient history, all of this, you can know it all, and it doesn't mean that you're any further along in development than the person who's just living their life, because they may actually be living the proper life. If you consider this for a second, nature put us, or I should say, here we are in nature, but it led us to this place, or we led ourselves to this place. The natural human behavior is to live and survive and prolong and procreate. And nature never told us, wait a minute, we need to stop and learn about spirituality for a minute, or here, you've got to learn about history. Think about it for a minute. We think that history is such an important thing for us, but is it really? Looks like the kids want me. I'm going to have to go in and answer their questions. Just a second. That's the reality. That's the reality I live in. That's the real world there. Can't edit that shit out. That's what I love about making videos. I've changed over the past few years by making these. I've been called out by people on certain things, some of them right, some of them not, but I've seen my reaction to people, their reactions to me. I learned how to better handle myself and to better handle my reality, if you will. Let me just say this, for people who are on a growth pattern, if you're trying to grow and you're trying to better yourself in this world and you're trying to learn about who you are, it's very difficult to gauge where you're at and whether it's a better place for you than where you were, because our memory of the history is always flawed and tainted. We always tend to remember these good times, and we build a nostalgia about where we should be or what life was really like before. And we're usually wrong about this. Just sit down and close your eyes sometime and think about your childhood home, or one of them. I had several. And imagine yourself in a part of the house, and then kind of move into another part, and you might find yourself remembering things that you don't even remember. I'm doing it right now, just thinking about the bathroom that I had when I was like 8 years old. And then you'll start to remember people and places and things you didn't remember. You start to realize that you've blocked out most of it, except for a few of the good times, unless you're the kind of person who's attached to the bad times, in which then you have a negative view of history, but that's for another story. If you can look back at yourself honestly and say, okay, I've grown since then, I would say that the only way we can know that for sure is by how happy are we now. And if we're deluding ourselves to be happy, or if our happiness is coming at the cost of others, paining others. Now let's say that we were broke and we thought that money would make us happy, and now we have more money and we think we're happy, but that money's coming at the cost of other people. Maybe we won out in the stock market, or maybe we gambled, but in the end the money comes from somewhere, and then it just makes us more miserable because we think that money is something that's going to actually buy us happiness. We don't listen to the musicians, we don't listen to the artists, and there's a reason why there's a term called starving artist. It's not because artists are too dumb to make money. It's because most people who have artistic inclinations don't do it for the money, and they just hope that they can get something out of it. And I'm an artist, okay? I do make videos, but I also I paint and draw and sculpt with Fimo clay and make necklaces and jewelry. I'm a woodworker. I make really, fancy little intricate boxes and stuff. But I love to create and build. I still build with rocks and Legos and anything I can find. I just love to create. But I've already come to the conclusion that that's not going to make me any money. And, that's kind of funny. kind of, it's a little off the subject. I guess that's what was interesting to me is a couple of years ago I asked myself what I really wanted to do, and I said I want to work with plants and natural medicines because I see so many people who are stuck taking pharmaceuticals or trusting their doctor to prescribe them something that may just devastate their lives, and sometimes for the better, but sometimes not. And I asked myself, how can I take my love of plants and turn it into a job? Because I'll tell you, starting out an herb business and just starting selling herbs online, it's nearly impossible. I mean, of all the herbs I carried, 90% of my sales were kratom, obviously, because people love kratom. And I was hoping that I could slowly start moving other herbs into my lineup, and then I had 7 or 8 other herbs I was selling, canna and mucuna and whatnot. I was doing it for the love of the plants, not for the money. But without money, it's hard to keep your business going and help other people and do more for people and for yourself. Because ultimately, we want to give things to the world. I think a lot of us do. I mean, not everybody, but I love to give back. It makes me feel good, regardless of whether that's good for a selfish reason or not. We want to help people out, a lot of us. Altruism is something that a lot of us share. And sometimes people give to the point where they have nothing left. And other people take to the point where they have nothing to give or won't give. And in between, it's like those of us who money means nothing to us, but we realize we still have to pay the mortgage. Still have to pay for our kids' clothes and meals. So we try to look at life honestly and be fair. And this is tied into what I was saying about seeing yourself and really observing yourself. Ask yourself your intentions of why, not just the things you do and the way you react to people, but what job do you have and why do you have it? And do you enjoy it? Is it serving you, or is it serving people? Or is it doing anything to, maybe it's just a good pay. That's possible too. You can sacrifice and not really love your job if it's good enough pay and it gives you enough free time to do the other things you want. But if you're working 2 jobs at minimum wage and you hate them both, and you have no time to spend the money anyway, what's the point? In other words, if at the end of the day, each day, you can't say, that wasn't so bad, then it might be time to change up and switch the things we're doing. Because I, for one, at 40 years old, I know how easy it is to get sucked into a routine. And I always told myself, I will never be one of those guys that is broken by an extreme event or an emergency or crisis in my life. Now, I can't talk about non-physical things such as like a loved one dying. That's a totally different story. But as far as if I were to lose my house, lose my stuff, lose my funds, lose my money, it would just be an oh well, is the kind of attitude I want to have and move on. And that's how I felt about this kratom thing. You see, that's with this kratom ban, frustrated, of course, but not nearly as much as I thought I would be about my own life. It's about the freedoms. I'm not worried about how I'm going to make money down the road. We'll figure that out. But it's just about being infringed upon our rights and, having something taken away from us that we deserve. But then there's the subconscious mind, which is a little more frustrated than the conscious mind, and seeing the difference between those two and really being able to know how your mind operates is just an essential key. I think it's really important. So I'll talk to y'all later now. Once these videos get up to about 20 minutes, I just gotta go, or they'll just last forever.